The Great Depression was one of the saddest, most heartbreaking times that our nation has seen. Today I wanted to inform you on how the Great Depression began, what happened during the Great Depression, and how we got out of it. Before the Great Depression happened, we had the Roaring 20s. People were living great lives. They had jobs, they were making money, and they were spending that money. And so our economy grew. Our nation's wealth actually doubled between 1920 and 1929. People were investing and they were building their credit, and all of those wonderful things were happening. With that fast expansion, the stock market reached its peak in August of 1929. But by October 24th of that same year, the Great Depression began, when there was an extreme crash in that stock market. This day was known as Black Thursday. 16 million shares were sold by investors because they didn't have faith in the economy anymore. And that was according to www.sahistory.org.za. And from there were other terrible things that happened. There was overproduction of good. The debt of the people caught up to them. Banks were closing because they couldn't keep up. And there were many other factors that drove us and spiraled us even more farther down into the Depression. By 1931, the number of unemployed was 6 million, and by 1931, the peak of the Great Depression, nearly 25% of our nation's workforce did not have jobs, which was 12,830,000 people. That is a lot. I don't think we've ever seen that number since then. I remember my great aunt telling me a story one time about, because she grew up in the Great Depression, she was allotted 1 square of toilet paper every time she had to use the bathroom. And today you could go down into her basement and you could find a whole room dedicated to just having toilet paper, because she never wants to have to go through that again. And so that really hit home for me to know that this actually did happen. People did suffer. People didn't live with these basic necessities that we have today. People lived in poverty and were hungry, and there were towns built up called shanty towns where the homeless would gather and be together. All of that was horrible, and I hope that we never have to go through it ever again. In 1933, President Roosevelt was elected. And when Roosevelt was elected, he created something called New Deals. And according to www.duxers.com, there's a great quote. It says, "The New Deal was a history of laws, programs, and government agencies enacted to help the country deal with the Great Depression. These laws place regulations on the stock market, banks, and businesses. They helped put people to work and tried to help house and feed the poor." Close quote. The Great Depression actually ended with the start of World War II. With the start of the Second World War, there were new jobs created. People started to work in factories again. They started shipping and packing and making. All of these things happened from something that you wouldn't expect it to. Wars aren't so great, but for our nation, it was, because it brought us out of something so tragic. And so, with these new regulations that President Roosevelt made as well, it definitely helped. And so, today I hope you learned about the Great Depression a little bit more and how it really affected our nation. Thank you for watching.